everybody, and welcome on board Ocean Harmony. I'm Jay.
And I'm Rod.
We're from Australia, and we wanted to give you a little bit of a guided tour of the options that we chose on our Fountaine Pajot Isla 40 and why we chose those items.
So we chose the Maestro version, which was a 3-cabin and 2-bathroom option, together with all the comfort package, which included things like the Bose stereo upgrade, the TV, the blue beautiful courtesy lights, and quite a few other little options.
So I think probably one of the things about an Isla is the fact that it is built for comfort. Okay, so you have the option to have a flat screen TV. We have a Samsung flat screen TV, and it's brilliant because it comes out on a swivel arm. It allows you to see the TV from anywhere on the sofa. The sound quality is excellent, and also the picture quality is fantastic.
And also the Bose stereo upgrade. So Jay and I both love our music.
Absolutely.
And the stereo sound is so good. We have actually joked about that we got the best stereo and it was quite expensive, but it came with a free boat.
The Bose is really lovely. You can split the system so that it can be for the cockpit only or for the salon, or you can have a mixture for both. The sound quality is phenomenal, and I really would suggest that if you are looking to get an Isla, then definitely consider putting in the TV and the stereo system.
Yep, and other items which include the courtesy lighting. It is just so beautiful when you're looking at the boat on the water. It just gives it that glow, and it's a lovely blue colour.
So there's a blue light that basically runs around the coach roof. There's also blue lights that feature in the cockpit area. It means that the boat is really identifiable if you happen to be coming back from shore and you've got lots of boats around you. But it's a very warm and welcoming kind of, special touch to the boat.
Yeah. So we also did the 30 horsepower Volvo engine upgrades. The standard Volvos are 20 horsepower, but for the extra roughly 1,500 euros, we went for the 30. We actually really appreciated the extra power at times, especially when you're going into strong currents or into difficult windy situations. But we also got the folding propellers, so that supposedly allows you to get a little bit of extra speed when you're sailing.
Those folding props have been fantastic as well, because it does, as Rod's just said, gives you a little bit of extra speed, but it also means that they're less likely to cause damage later on.
Yep. The other thing we got was the Salon Table that drops down into a berth rather than the coffee table. We think this is still a good option, even though it is at times a little difficult to get in and out. It just gives you also an extra workspace because you've only got the small kitchen as well. You can then start doing some meal preparation and other things on the table, and it also makes extra 2 beds, and they give you a mattress insert.
But the other side of that as well is the fact that not every day is a sunny day. Not every day is going to be a warm day. So being able to sit inside and have a meal at a table inside rather than having to balance something on your lap is a big feature. And
sitting in here maybe watching the Netflix or other things while you have your dinner is also something that's great. So we also, next item was the Garmin upgrade, and that was the smart cruising, and that included an extra large monitor that we have at the
helm station,
which is,
and the nav station.
Nav stations.
The Garmin system that we've got on our boat is absolutely fantastic. It covers a lot of different aspects of the boat's operation. So we have our charts, and that allows us also to see the terrain underneath the water. It allows us to have a radar overlay over the top. It allows us also to have what they call a fisheye view, which allows you to see the contours in the water. The Garmin system also extends into the electronic operation of the boat, so the management systems for the boat.
So the things like the fuel consumption and water, as well as it has a link into the Victron energy system, which is fantastic, and we'll talk about that in another video.
And the chart plotting aspect of the Garmin I find to be really useful, simply because of the fact that you can see very clearly, like all chart plotters do I guess, but in the Garmin system it's really nice because it's very clear, it's very crisp, it's very easy to understand the direction that you're traveling in. You can plan routes you can plan waypoints, and it also allows you to see the other vessels that are in your proximity, as well as be aware of things such as fishing areas.
Yep.
And anchoring areas.
And we included the AIS included in that.
Yep.
And I'd say that everyone who is looking to buy a boat these days will have your AIS, and especially if you're doing overnight passages, the AIS is something that
Phenomenal.
you wouldn't even consider going without it.
No, I agree.
Yep. So we got our radar. The radar was important, and we used it mostly this year during the periods where we've had a lot of fog.
Yep.
But also we've done some overnight passages as well, and having the radar on will let you pick any boats that don't have AIS.
Yep.
And therefore you can see a target or something in front of you, and then go looking for the lights. So the other item was the freezer.
I love our freezer and I love our fridges. We have a door opening fridge, and we have door opening freezer and drawer opening fridges. The freezer is really quite large. We've not had any problems with food storage while we've been away. It's also allowed us to be able to store ice when we've wanted to have cold drinks. The freezer is fantastic, and I really recommend that if you've got the capacity to have a freezer on board, it's worthwhile, particularly if you are doing extended passages where you're not going to be going into shops on a regular basis.
Yeah, and being able to stock up when you can get to a shop, because quite often we've had large distances between a supermarket and where the boat is, and knowing that we've got plenty of food and meat, and the times that we have stayed at a marina that is near a supermarket, we will always stock up and truly.
We stock up extensively when we're near a supermarket, but it's not uncommon to walk 4 kilometres or so to get to a supermarket. So if you've got the capacity to store on board, it does save you a lot of time and effort when you're trying to restock later on. And the fridges are fantastic as well. There's, as I said, 2 drawer fridges. I've set one aside for vegetables and the other for meat and milk and so forth. And I find that works particularly well. The drawers are connected, they're not independent of one another, but it does mean that you've got the capacity to be able to separate your food out.
Yep, and the next item that we chose was the washing machine.
Okay, so I wasn't sure if we were going to need a washing machine or need a dishwasher. We'll come back and talk about the dishwasher later, but the washing machine has been fantastic. It's a baby Nova by Supernova, and it's a very small washing machine, but it does allow us to do the washing for 2 people quite comfortably, once a fortnight or so. It uses about 32 to 34 litres of water, so it is water intensive. At the moment we don't have a water maker on board, so we have to be mindful when we use the washing machine. However, it washes brilliantly. It also wrings things out, spin dries things so well that they don't require an awful lot of drying on the line. The real benefit though is the time and the cost of not having to A, go into a marina to do your washing, or B, get to and from a laundrette to be able to do your washing and pay for it. So I really think that the washing machine, whilst it hasn't yet paid for itself, the time and effort it saves is just fantastic.
We also chose the fan options. We have there are 6 in total. We have 2 of them here in the salon and 4 of them in the cabins.
The fans are fantastic. We also didn't choose to have air conditioning because we figured that we'd see how we went for our first season of sailing and make a determination whether or not we needed air conditioning at a later date. The fans, particularly in the salon area, move the air around, and combined with your hatches, we haven't found that that's been particularly problematic. In the bedrooms, they do provide some good air movement of a night time.
The only time we really found that they're not doing enough was particularly when we're in some marinas, and we bought a couple of box fans that we've been able to put them into the hatches, and they've really served a really good purpose because we haven't got the aircon.
To qualify that though, we did have 5 people on board. It was sitting at between 39 and 40 degrees Celsius. So those box fans that we put over the hatches, they fit the hatches perfectly. We just picked them up from Electro Depot.
Yeah.
They fit the hatches perfectly, and they just provided some air movement during the night, and I think
worked really well.
I was certainly comfortable.
Yep.
And I don't actually think we need to worry about an air conditioner at this stage.
Yep. So we also, next item was to choose the electric heads over the manual heads.
So the electric heads, it is important obviously to be able to have toilets on board. The choice between manual and electric, I have to say in my mind, is a no-brainer. Go for electric every time. Basically, as the waste goes into the toilet, it's macerated so that it's blended up. It takes up less space in the tanks, and it also means that if you are dumping offshore, you're dumping something that is more able to be broken down easily. The heads themselves will have a smell to them, so you do get used to that. But basically that comes if you use a saltwater rinse in your toilet or you don't use toilet chemicals. So for my suggestion, it is from time to time you do need to use a freshwater rinse to be able to clean your toilets out. But most of the time you use salt water, and make sure you use toilet chemicals.
Yeah, so the next item on the FP list that we chose was the chain counter.
Chain counter is fantastic because it allows you to identify how much chain you're releasing with your anchor when you drop your anchor. Now this might seem like, how long is a piece of rope, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
There's a lot of techniques that people use to mark their chain, and generally speaking it's painting different sections of the chain so that you can see when you've done 5 meters or 10 meters or 20 meters of chain. The chain counter for us takes that guesswork away. It allows us to see exactly how much scope we've put out, and it also allows us to see how much chain we have yet to haul back in so that we can identify whether or not we've snagged on something.
Yeah, so the chain counter's been great. So next item on the options was the Dolphin Seats.
Oh, I love the Dolphin Seats.
We got so many dolphins this year.
So the Dolphin Seats, also called Princess Seats, are at the front of, thank you, are at the front of the boat. They're 2 little wooden seats that allow you to be able to sit and see what's going on at the front of the boat. Fantastic for viewing what's coming up in the water, fantastic for diving off if you happen to be one of those people keen enough to do so. They're just a lovely little accessory that, now that we've had it, I wouldn't want to be without it.
The next item on the list of options we chose was a second UHF handset.
The UHF handset in the helm is fantastic, obviously, but to have a second one in the nav station means that I can contact the marinas, or I can listen to weather reports while Rod's doing something up in the helm area, and
or vice versa.
Or vice versa, and there's no background distraction. The second UHF has also been very useful for me to be able to put some attention to emergency messages that have come through, particularly when there's been navigational warnings. We had a major storm in Formentera a couple of weeks ago, and there were firstly lengths of rope that were in the water, and there was also actually a couple of boats that had escaped their moorings, or they washed up on shore and then bounded back out into the sea. So having one person being able to concentrate on what's happening with the UHF and the other person concentrating on the sailing is quite an important thing. Having it in the helm station means that it's, having it in the navigational station means that you can listen to what's going on, take notes if you need to, and then convey that to the skipper.
Yep, and the next item was the bowsprit and the gear for the Gennaker. So this is just the setup of the gear for the Gennaker, but if you don't get the bowsprit, really you're limited somewhat to your light wind sailing and your downwind sailing.
We have a Gennaker, which we bought aftermarket, which we'll talk about a bit later on, but having the furling option as part of the package from Fountaine Pajot was brilliant because it meant that we could then put the extra sails on later on. And I think if you're going to put your boat together in the beginning, that would be something to really consider. You might not need it this season, but it certainly will be something that once you've got a bit of skill under your belt, you'll want to be using a Gennaker. Yeah,
one thing we have noticed is that they set up a winch on the port side above the port cabin, but then they were wanting you to use the winch that you use also for raising the
dinghy.
The dinghy, and we
for
have
the
had
starboard side to raise and lower the Gennaker.
Yeah, so we have found that it's just doesn't work that well because because of the angles. So we need to look at a few options of either putting another winch in for the Gennaker or for looking at maybe another block to make sure that the lines are a bit more level.
Yeah, I think this was actually an oversight that perhaps Fountaine Pajot might need to look at in future. Having a winch that is lower than the rope that's going into the winch means that the rope or the line quite frequently tangles itself or rides over itself. To try and balance that, you've either got to press down on the rope as you're winching in, or you've got to have someone else helping you, which is not ideal when you're trying to get a Gennaker out in wind, or if you're trying to get a Gennaker out or back when you've got other things happening at the same time.
Yep.
So we are looking at getting a second winch on the top of the owner's cabin to combat that problem.
Yep. So we also chose the life raft from the factory. We chose a 6-person life raft, and in hindsight I wish we had have spent an extra €150 or so on the 8-person life raft, because even though we've got the 6 cabins, there may be a possibility, because we've got the berth that folds down here, that we may have 8, and so that could give us some difficulties later on.
We have capacity to have more people on board than the life raft holds. And ideally, you do want a life raft that is going to be able to cater for everybody that you're going to have on board.
Yep. So our next option that we had to change was the colours of the interior cushions, which are these ones here that we're sitting on.
The sofa that we're sitting on.
And we also changed the colours on the exterior cushions, because we didn't like what the factory had changed our order to. So
I think probably one of the biggest disappointing aspects of our Isla FP experience has been the fact that our colour scheme changed after we had paid our deposit. Now, this might not sound like a big deal, but the colour scheme changed and the kitchen cabinetry changed, and it's kind of now a little bit of a mishmash. So we ended up with what was originally going to be the kitchen was going to be white cabinetry with white bench tops. We now have the same colour as the table, so it's this beach coloured cabinetry with the white bench tops. That in itself is fine. But in the bedrooms and the bathrooms, the trim colour has gone from being a mocha brown colour to blue, which is not as bad as what we had originally seen photos of. We thought that when we saw the photos that it was going to be quite disappointing. It was going to be a very dark colour. The blue is quite nice, but it doesn't go comfortably with the brown that has been left in place. So there is still brown trim around the bottom of the floors, in the gel coat, and around the kitchen bench tops, and also in part of the bathrooms. And then there's been blue overlaid over the top. And I think that this was a missed opportunity for Fountaine Pajot. They've changed the bed heads and the skirts around the beds to blue. Why not change the curtain colours to match?
Yeah.
If you're going to have the bathrooms done in blue, why not do the back trim to match rather than leaving that all in brown? So I think it was a bit missed opportunity. We were quite disappointed when they changed the colour scheme, as we'd already paid our deposit. We couldn't do anything about the colour scheme.
Yep, they have all full creative control. So
Absolutely.
If you are looking to buy a new boat, there's a possibility what you sign up for is not what you're going to get.
May not necessarily be the exact colour scheme that you go with.
But fortunately, in some cases, there are some options to help. The sofa inside was going to be a mocha colour.
So similar colour to the curtains that you see behind us.
Yeah.
We felt that was just going to be far too brown, given that everything else was wooden.
Yeah, we like the light colours, and we loved that when we looked at the Islas and we saw them on the thing. So we had to pay extra, about €1,500 to get the white colour fabric, which was pretty much close to what it was on the original boat.
Yep.
And the outdoor fabric was going to be a toffee colour, and we've changed to like a beautiful navy blue, and we're really happy with the colour outside.
It's a light blue fleck, so it's not actually a hard solid colour. It's a blue fleck, and it is much more in keeping with the exterior of the boat.
And it's a PVC material. I was a bit worried that the material might get hot and sweaty in summer,
but not at all.
It's been fantastic,
Yeah.
and it cleans so well and it dries so quickly. So we're really happy with those, but disappointed that we didn't get the colours that we had originally signed up for.
That we'd actually thought that we were going to be getting. And if you think about it, if you're buying a boat, it is going to be like buying a house. And you have a certain idea of the colour scheme that you want to have for your house. If that changes and you can't do anything about it, it can be a bit disappointing.
It's not like we can slap a coat of paint on it.
No.
You know, there's no scope to paint or do anything like that. So it is what it is. We still love the boat, but it's just
that
not.
was a disappointing aspect.
Yep. So in terms of the factory options, the obvious exclusions that we had was a generator. So we don't have a generator on board. We've got some lithium batteries, and we didn't choose the air conditioning. So how's the summer been without the air conditioning?
As we said before, really, we haven't missed the air conditioning. I don't like really severe heat, and I don't like really severe cold. I'm one of those Goldilocks kind of people, and so I was actually really stressing out that it was going to be too hot, and it's been quite fine.
Yeah, especially
the
at
fans. Yeah, and the fans have made a difference. The installed fans and our aftermarket fans that we've just brought and put in. And quite frankly, I don't think we're going to need to put an air conditioner in unless we decide to live aboard permanently.
Yeah, I think that the air conditioner has the advantage of being reverse cycle, dehumidifying, heating as well. But it's really only been in the marinas where the airflow isn't quite as good as on anchor.
Yeah,
we've actually needed the air conditioning.
Yeah.
And without the generator, we wouldn't have had enough power to run the air conditioning anyhow, apart from being in it when we're at marinas. So, and it saved something like 50,000 euros not choosing those two options. Okay, in terms of our aftermarket choices.
Now, these are some of the interesting things that we have decided to add in to what Fountaine Pajot offer as their range of options. But also some of the things that Rod particularly has chosen after doing quite a lot of research that we felt that would make our cruising life more interesting and more comfortable.
Now, we were lucky enough to have a dealer that managed all of the aftermarket purchases for us. I have been talking to some other boat owners who haven't had that luxury, but in terms of our first item was the Coppercoat in anti-foul instead of the factory ablative.
The Coppercoat is fantastic. I've been under the boat to clean it, and really it's very, very easy to clean. The other thing about the Coppercoat is it lasts about 5 years before
up
you
to
have
10
to
actually.
Up to 10 before you actually have to re-coat it. You do need to give it a light sand back each season, so we will do that prior to hauling out next year.
We've been quoted at 135 or 150 euros to that light sand back, compared to about 1,000 to reapply your anti-foul.
Exactly. The Coppercoat also actually looks quite nice on the bottom of the boat too. It has obviously that coppery kind of patina, the green coloured sort of tone to it. It releases slowly into the water, so it does break down in the water, but it is not as problematic as the ablatives.
That's exactly right. So the next item is the aftermarket Gennaker.
She's beautiful. We call her Jenny. We have a beautiful big blue Gennaker, and it has Ocean Harmony, our boat logo, on the Gennaker. It sails beautifully, it handles beautifully, and it gives you such a lovely feeling of having this beautiful big blue sail at the front of the boat.
This is our Gennaker. She's an aftermarket Gennaker. We decided to get it aftermarket so we could get our logo on it. Our logo is at the moment on the other side of the sail. She's on a continuous furler. We've been able to sail her in about 7 to 8 knots of wind. I think at the moment we're just sailing the Gennaker without a main, and we've got about 8 knots of wind, and we're doing about 5 knots. Over the season we've been able to sail so much more because we've got the Gennaker, and I would highly recommend anyone who's wanting to actually sail in the Med to get yourself a Gennaker. It is very convenient. We have it on the furler, and it is fairly easy to operate.
Sometimes you've got those days in the Med that have really light winds, and you're just getting nowhere with your full Genoa and main. Popping up the Gennaker just picks up the little bit of extra wind, and she's just beautiful.
So another item that we got installed by Multi-Hull was Bob the dishwasher.
So Bob the dishwasher, when Rod first said that he wanted to get a dishwasher on board, there were some words exchanged, because I felt that we just didn't need a dishwasher. It wouldn't be something we would use. It would take up too much space. It would use too much water. It's a waste of time and effort. And I was wrong. Bob is our third crew member. I hate to say it, but he really is. So Bob the dishwasher is a tiny little dishwasher. It's made specifically for boats, RVs and caravans.
And small apartments.
He takes up half the size of a cabinet, and he uses between 3 and 4 litres of water for a standard cycle, and as little as 2 litres of water for a glass cycle.
Yep, and for someone like myself who absolutely hates doing the dishes,
which is why we got Bob in the first place.
I don't mind getting out here, packing the dishwasher and just pressing the button. And he hasn't been a big user of electricity either.
Or water, yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, one other thing before we go. One of the big advantages to using the dishwasher is when you get those passages where you are sailing and it starts to get windy or starts to get more swell in the water, and you start to get thrown around a bit more, rather than trying to wash up your dishes or leaving the dishes in the sink, you've got the ability to put the things in the dishwasher, turn the dishwasher on, and know that it's all done and there's nothing lying around gash on the kitchen benches or in the sink.
Yep. So the next big item on our list was the 35 kilo Ultra Anchor, together with 100 meters of chain. So we don't have any rode, we're full chain. Jay does all the anchoring together with the windlass that was supplied by the boat. And how has it been?
So Rod really loves this Ultra Anchor, and I have to say that
it was expensive.
I couldn't see what the point of having a fancy anchor was. Now I can. The Ultra Anchor is so easy to use. It's on the windlass, it allows it to go into the water quite easily, come back out quite easily, but the anchor itself digs itself into the sand, and its holding capacity is just phenomenal.
Yeah, so I've did a lot of research on the best anchors. Sure enough, probably the Rockner and the Mantis probably were equivalent. However, the Ultra was just a little bit better, a bit more expensive. However, when you're dealing with small anchorages and tight places, being able to just drop a little bit of shorter scope. So we are upper size, so we've got the 35 kilo. We probably could have got away with the 27 kilo, but
gives you a greater sense of confidence that you've got the 35.
Yeah, and knowing that the windlass will pull up 1,000 kilos, we were happy with the 35 when the Multi-Hull and Uchimata suggested the 35. So we're happy that we can go to sleep overnight, know that the thing's not going to drag, even though we haven't been anchored in very strong winds this season, but we know that we're confident that the ground tackle is going to hold your investment in place and keep it safe. So the other major items include a hard top for our bimini. The factory provides a canvas bimini that typically lasts 3 or 4 years. We've decided to purchase a hardtop and get that imported from the States by a company called Dedicated Marine. It did cost us considerably more, but we know that the hardtop itself is going to last the life of the boat and not need to be replaced. So this is our hardtop from the outside. It's a really sturdy structure. It's been a great place to mount our Starlink And the thing I like so much about it is being so sturdy when I'm working up here on the boom, especially if I'm in some wind or swell. It gives me a nice sturdy structure to give me some support when I'm working on the boom. So people who are looking at an FP, I would highly recommend a hardtop, and this particular hardtop is from Dedicated Marine, and it's been really well built, and it was installed for us by our dealer.
The hardtop's been great. One of the things I like about the hardtop is, unlike the canvas bimneys, if it does get wet, it just rolls off, whereas the canvas bimneys tend to make you feel quite cold and wet if they start to soak up too much water.
And we've had to, we've done aftermarket canvas work for the boat. This is all coordinated by Multi-Hull Solutions, the dealer.
Yep.
So we had the aftermarket canvas for the bimney. It's been great. We've just had the clears.
For the surrounds.
Sorry, not for the bimney, but for the hardtop and the helms area, as well as the clears for the whole of the cockpit. It is quite expensive, and probably if you're just cruising the Med, you could get away with not having the clears for the cockpit.
That's, yeah.
But certainly you need something around the helm for those days that it's rough and ready, because we've had many days where we've been beating into the wind and you go down a wave and the splashes right up over the helm.
Yeah, I think probably the first time that we realised just how valuable encasing the helm station was on our second night in the Bay of Biscay. It got very cold and it got very stormy, and we had great swells. We were both rugged up wearing tracksuit pants and jumpers, and as well as our wet weather gear. But having the helm station enclosed meant that we kept some of that heat in and we kept some of that water out.
Yeah. So the next items was a Highfield 3.1 metre dinghy. We got the 15 horsepower Honda together with the electric start rather than the manual start. I will say it's very heavy, and we have noticed that the side with the engine, when we're in swells, we're really having to strap it down, otherwise it bangs around pretty badly. We have to put some chafe resistant material on the davits, because over the year it certainly has rubbed on the hypalon of the dinghy,
yeah.
And we have some sort of damage there.
I think this is something I don't know how you resolve it, whether it's something that is specific to the type of dinghy that we've chosen, or if it's something across the board. But certainly the davits rubbing on the side of the dinghy, we've got quite extensive damage on one side because we went into the storms through Biscay, and we didn't realise that the dinghy wasn't securely tied. It was securely tied, but there was still some free play between the dinghy and the davit. So there's a significant rub point, particularly on the starboard side davit. So we're looking at how we can fix that for next season. We're probably going to sew up some socks to go over the davits, but it is an issue that needs to be considered when you're purchasing a dinghy, to make sure that your rub points are covered before you actually install your dinghy. And whether it's a davit issue or a dinghy issue, I can't say, but as I say, it's certainly done some damage to our dinghy.
I would say that some of these things you will only learn
Once
after you've either
yeah.
got the boat, because we've seen other islanders now who have got sort of protection on their davits. But it's something that it'd be great if actually the dealers would say, hey, these are the shortcomings of the boat. We know about these shortcomings. These are things you might
need to be aware of, yeah.
And to say, hey, you know, it would be great to make these changes when we're in La Rochelle rather than having the problem when we're hitting Bay.
We're in the middle of the boat. But as I said, you know, this is our first time on this sort of a boat, so it's hard to know until you go what you're actually going to need and what you're going to need to change.
Yeah. So the other biggest item that we've picked for the boat in aftermarket is 990 amp hours of lithium batteries together with 1550 watts of solar. So we are essentially completely off-grid.
Yep.
And we don't have to worry about power. Overnight, we typically will use about 10% of our power on the fridges and things like that. A little bit more if we're leaving the Starlink on all night. And it's been fantastic. And not having to have the generator and running a generator every afternoon means that our diesel tanks will go a little bit further.
Yep.
And we don't have to worry about the noise associated with the diesel generator as well.
And even when we've come into marinas, it's actually quite rare that we've needed to go onto shore power. So just sitting in a marina for 2 or 3 days, the solar is still doing its thing. So unless we've had a stretch of long cloudy days, we really haven't had any dramas at all. In fact, we haven't had any long cloudy days. So,
and so I think that if you were cruising in lower latitudes or in areas where it's really cloudy, you may need to either have a portable generator or run your engines, because their engines, the way that they've set up the boat, will produce
the engines will top up
1.6 kilowatts per engine, and I'm going to have a separate video on the lithium system, but it's been absolutely fantastic. I would suggest take the plunge, even though initially we were a little bit reluctant to go lithium because of potential fires, and our dealer was saying, oh, you know, some of the insurance companies are but we are lucky that our dealer was able to organise the lithium package before we arrived. I know some of the other dealers aren't helping with the lithium, so it's been fantastic and highly recommended. Don't go AGM, go lithium.
No, I would agree. And we've also come across some people who have full electric boats, and they've had some issues with the full electric boat. So I think the balance between having diesel engines that then top up your battery packs and using the solar, I think that's the best combination. I think that's the best combination.
Yep, at the moment.
So thank you very much for watching our video. We just thought we'd give you some of the things that we have chosen to have on our Isla 40 Fountaine Pajot that have made our life more comfortable.
And so if you want to ask us any questions about those choices and why we made those choices, you can just message us either on Facebook or on our YouTube channel.